August 3rd, 1962. A woman sits in a Los Angeles apartment writing a letter she will never send. She is 36 years old. She is the most famous woman alive. And she does not know that, in an office on the other side of the country, a man named J. Edgar Hoover has a folder on his desk with her name on it. The folder is 7 years old. It is, at this point, more than 3 inches thick. She will be dead in 21 hours. The folder will not close. It will remain open inside the Federal Bureau of Investigation for another 50 years. Portions of it will remain classified long after that. When the Associated Press finally forces its release in 2012, the file is 104 pages. In 2017, the FBI releases more. In 2012 alone, 54 redactions are removed that had been in place for 5 decades. Each black bar a name, a date, an association the United States government had decided the public could not be trusted to know. The woman in the apartment is Marilyn Monroe. The question most people ask about her is how she died. The question the documents answer is something else entirely. Why was the FBI watching her in the first place? The file begins in 1955, 7 years before her death. Marilyn Monroe is 29 years old. She has just finished filming The 7-Year Itch. The subway great photograph has not yet been taken. She is the highest paid woman in Hollywood, and somewhere in the FBI's New York field office, an agent opens a new case file. The subject is Marilyn Monroe. The classification is misinformation concerning. The reason, stripped of its bureaucratic language, is this: she has asked for a visa to visit the Soviet Union. The request never goes anywhere. The trip is never made. But the file has opened, and in the Hoover FBI, a file that has opened does not close, it grows. Over the next 7 years, the Bureau's interest in Marilyn Monroe will expand from a single travel request into a sustained surveillance operation. They will document her marriages, they will document her friendships, they will document her therapist, they will document the people her therapist knows, they will follow her to Mexico, they will place informants inside her inner circle. By 1962, the FBI will have a better map of Marilyn Monroe's associations than most of her friends do. None of this, in the Bureau's own eventual assessment, will produce evidence of any crime. The declassified file contains a line that sits with you after you read it. Writing about whether Monroe was a Communist Party member, an agent concludes, and this is the exact language in the memo: subject's views are very positively and concisely leftist. However, if she is being actively used by the Communist Party, it is not general knowledge among those working with the movement in Los Angeles. That is the Bureau's finding. After 7 years, after informants, after surveillance of her travel, her phone calls, her therapy sessions, she holds opinions. She associates with people who hold opinions. There is no evidence she has ever broken a law. The file continues anyway. To understand why, you have to understand who is reading these reports. J. Edgar Hoover has been director of the FBI since 1924. By 1955, he is effectively untouchable. He maintains secret files on every sitting president, every senator of consequence, and a rotating cast of American public figures whose politics or private lives he considers threats to what he calls the internal security of the United States. His definition of that phrase is broad. Civil rights leaders qualify, homosexuals qualify, Hollywood actors who express opinions about China qualify. Marilyn Monroe has done all of these, not in secret, publicly. She marries Arthur Miller, a playwright the FBI has assessed as connected to 29 communist organizations. Miller is later found in contempt of Congress for refusing to name names during the McCarthy hearings. Monroe stays with him, stands beside him. The marriage lasts 5 years. For 5 years, the file grows. She travels to Mexico in 1962. The trip is to shop for furniture. The FBI's informants report that during this trip she meets Frederick Vanderbilt Field, a man disinherited from his family's fortune for his communist beliefs, living in self-imposed exile in Mexico City. An informant, whose name remains redacted in the file, reports to the Bureau that a mutual infatuation has developed between Field and Monroe. The informant's exact language is preserved in the file. The situation caused considerable dismay among Miss Monroe's entourage and also among the American Communist group in Mexico. Read that sentence again slowly. Inside Marilyn Monroe's own entourage, someone is reporting to the FBI about her love life, her conversations, her associations. They are doing it in real time. Her inner circle is not her inner circle. The same Mexico trip contains a conversation recorded in a separate document. Field's own memoir, published years later, includes a chapter about the trip. He writes that Monroe spoke about her admiration for the civil rights movement, her support for what was happening in China, her anger at McCarthyism, and something else, something specific. She told Field in conversation over dinner in Mexico City about her hatred for J. Edgar Hoover. She named him personally. Within weeks, that information is in Hoover's file. What she never knew, and what the file proves she never knew, is that one of the people at those dinners was talking. The reports are too detailed to have come from anyone else. The FBI had placed an informant inside her Mexican holiday. A woman having dinner in Mexico City, speaking about civil rights, was being documented by the director of the agency she had just told her friend she hated. She returned to Los Angeles on July 2nd, 1962. She had 32 days to live. The final entries in the file are clinical. A memo dated August 6, 1962, 2 days after her death, summarizes the Bureau's accumulated information about Norma Jean Baker, professional name Marilyn Monroe. It notes her marriages, it notes her associations, it notes her political interests. It does not contain evidence of any crime. It also does not contain any acknowledgement of what anyone in that bureau thought at that moment they had been doing. 7 years of surveillance on a woman who had broken no law. 7 years of informants inside her life. A final memo written the week she died, treating her death as the closing of a case file. The file should have ended there. It did not. For the next 50 years, pieces of it remained classified, names blacked out, informants protected. The FBI's position, stated in multiple responses to Freedom of Information Act requests, was that release would compromise ongoing investigative interests. The subject of the file had been dead for half a century. In 2012, the Associated Press filed a new FOIA request. The FBI initially responded that the Monroe files had been transferred to the National Archives. The archives reported they had never received them. Several months later, the FBI produced a version of the file with 54 fewer redactions than had ever been public before. No explanation was given for why those redactions had existed or why they could suddenly be removed. Some names, some pages, some sections remain redacted today. What the 2012 release revealed was not evidence of murder. It was something quieter, and in some ways more disturbing. It revealed the exact scale of what the Bureau had been doing, the names of the informants inside her entourage, the specific people who had been reporting her conversations, the depth of the infrastructure Hoover had built around a woman whose only documented offense was holding the wrong opinions and marrying the wrong man. The 1982 Los Angeles District Attorney's investigation into Monroe's death, which officially closed the matter, noted in its own report that the FBI files were, in its own language, heavily censored. Dr. Thomas Noguchi, the medical examiner who performed the autopsy, wrote in his 1983 memoir that in his opinion, the details of Monroe's death would never be fully known until the complete FBI files were made public. 40 years later, they still have not been. There is no document in the Marilyn Monroe FBI file that proves the government killed her. That claim goes beyond what the evidence shows, and this channel does not make claims the documents do not support. What the documents do show is the exact mechanism that generated the question in the first place. The FBI was watching her. The FBI was watching the people she talked to. The FBI had informants inside her marriage, her travels, her therapy relationship. The FBI maintained this operation for 7 years without producing evidence of any criminal conduct. The file was never closed. Portions are still classified. When the LA District Attorney reviewed the death and noted the FBI files were heavily censored, that was not a dramatic accusation. That was a procedural observation. The agency that had been watching her for 7 years was declining to provide the full record of its watching to the authority investigating her death. She wrote, in one of the last things she would ever say publicly, that the only person she had ever fully trusted was her own reflection. It sounds like something a movie star would say. Read alongside the file, it begins to sound like something else. A woman who had slowly discovered that the people she trusted were not people she could trust, who had, by the end, worked out that something was wrong with the perimeter of her own life, without being able to name exactly what. The file is still open. The redactions that remain. The FBI has never formally explained why the surveillance operation existed. No agent has ever testified under oath about what it produced or what it was for. No director of the FBI, after Hoover, has acknowledged it. The woman in the apartment on August 3rd, 1962, writing the letter she would not send, did not know the file existed. She knew something. The Mexico conversation suggests she had started to understand the outline of it. She named Hoover by name, to a person she believed was a friend, in a room she believed was private. By the time the Bureau received that report, she had 21 days left to live. The file that watched her outlived her by 63 years and counting. Most of it is public now, some of it is not. The parts that are not are still classified under the authority of an agency that has never been required to explain why a woman who broke no law needed to be watched for 7 years and still cannot be fully acknowledged, 60 years after her death. The file is in the FBI vault. Anyone can read it today. The redactions are still there. The names beneath the black bars are still there. Underneath, unseen. She was the most photographed woman of her century, and there are still things the United States government has decided you are not allowed to know about her. This file is now unsealed. The vault has more. Subscribe and you'll be there when the next one opens.